Hey my friends, how are you today? My name is Misty Sims, and if you found me, you have found my little corner of the internet that I like to call Beyond Reasonable Doubt, where we talk about all things true crime, culty, and a little bit creepy. I'm so thankful that you clicked on the link to this video, and I do hope that you will hang out with me long term and click that subscribe button so that we can continue talking more true crime all the time. And you already know, if you're a returning subscriber, I absolutely love you more than cupcakes with sprinkles on top. So forgive my lighting today too, guys. I have like this angelic glow on my face. I'm going to try to edit it out, but it's probably not going to happen. We all know how I edit. Yeah, I'm filming at a different time today. So it is, it's a little special here. I don't know. I'm not loving it, but you know what? We got to get the video out. We got to do our thing. So we're going to deal with this lovely glow. It kind of goes with the story, I guess, a little bit when we get to it. But yeah, so how are you guys? How was your weekend? What did you do? Did you have a great one? I hope you did. I hope you had some fun. It was hot here again, like unbearably, but we still had a great one. We got the food bus out for the first time, had a maiden voyage, so that was amazing. We did I think it was 22 hours of a marathon catering event at a company. So that was crazy. And then we ended our weekend with a ton of fun. You guys know, if you can see my shirt, it's a Damian Priest shirt. I'm a huge WWE fan. And we got to go to a live show, and that's always my favorite. I love house shows. If you're a fan, you know what I'm talking about. It just gives the talent a lot more time to interact with their fans and do certain things. We did a VIP experience, so I'll drop in some pictures from that. We got to meet several superstars. Two of my favorites, Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. I got to meet him. Kicked my family out of that picture so I could get one by myself. And a little shameless there. And then I got to meet Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, just a lot of them. If you guys are fans, and you know they're all great people, super nice. If you're not a fan, then you really didn't care what I was just jabbering on about for the last few seconds. But it's my vice, man. That is my thing. You could take away my Mountain Dew, you can take away cookies, you can take away cupcakes, you can take away whatever, but you cannot take away my wrestling. So that was my weekend in a nutshell. Made a little bit of money and then spent a little bit of money. So had a great one. Hope you guys did too. And we are back for another video. Thank you guys so much. You've been sharing, commenting, doing all the things. And we have upped our subscriber count a little bit. I hope to keep it going. I would love to see it hit triple digits here pretty soon, because that just helps me be able to get the videos out more and eventually maybe do this more than once a week, maybe do it 2 to 3 times a week. I am thinking about moving this beautiful setup here all into a studio. I have a little space that I could do and decorate, so we're going to look into that and see how that would look and feel. If you aren't subscribed over on Instagram, it's in the comment section below, or in the description box below. Please join us over there, because I will always post when a new video drops, and then we can start doing some fun things in the stories when there's cases that are out there that maybe we don't know a ton about right now, so it's not a full video's worth, but we might want to get out a little late breaking news or something like that. So head on over there and subscribe. I have TikTok, but I'll be honest, not great at the TikTok, so Instagram's probably better, but we'll see what we can do. But okay, all that rambling, forget about it. Let's focus on the case, because we're talking about a cult today, my friends. Woohoo! Man, I love cults. And I probably shouldn't put it that way. I probably should phrase things differently. I should probably learn how to talk different. I actually quoted this weekend that when I open my mouth, cornbread comes out, and also so do poorly phrased phrases, for lack of a better way to put that. But I'm probably not going to fix all that today. So yeah, cults, baby. We're talking about a cult. And this is the cult of cults here. And if you clicked on this video, you already know, you already guessed it, because you see the title, right? But we are talking about none other than the cult daddy himself, Jim Jones. Can I get an amen? Okay. If you're on Spotify, you might not have seen that. You got to come over to YouTube, because I am going to have so much fun with this one, because this dude is wild. He is wild. I was older before I heard about Jonestown. and the whole deal, which I guess you should be. You probably shouldn't be like 5 and knowing what happened with a major massacre, but it's crazy town to me, but there's so many similarities between other cults. Like I feel like this one is it just kind of set the bar for all of them, and there's so much that you can see as we talk about other ones, you can see how they tick and tie all back to, I guess, just the OG here. He's one of the originals. So I could have made this a multi-parter, because there is so many layers to this onion, but I'm going to save my multi-parter, because I want to do a Doomsday Cult video, and or video series, and it's going to be long. It may be probably 4 or 5 parts. This video is going to be long enough as it is, but I abbreviated it because I do want to do a big one on the Doomsday Cult and Lori Vallow, because that stupid ditch cat, like she's gonna take a minute for me to get through her and the Storm Daybell. And if you don't know about the Storm, I'll clue you in on that one. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, when we start that series, I'm going to need you to get your comfy socks and don't get a glass of wine, get a bottle, because you're probably going to need it by the time we're done. But anyway, Jim's going to get the abbreviated version today, because we can tell that story and condense it down a little bit. It's still going to be a longer video, but I think it's worth it. So let's get right into it. So Jim Jones was born May of 1931 to parents James and Lynetta Jones in Crete, Indiana. And his dad, James, was a veteran of World War I, and he had become severely disabled due to his exposure to chemical war attacks, and he had tons of breathing issues as a result of this. He was bedridden a lot of the time. He couldn't work. He had a lot of severe health issues that were debilitating. But he was also said to be I've got a dog and a cat over here fighting. But he was said to be very non-affectionate to Jim. He didn't show his son a lot of love. He was just really absent. And it's rumored that he was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, I couldn't find this confirmed 100%. But, we will find that to be, I think, a little ironic as we go through this and we talk about what Jim was preaching and what Jim stood for and things like that, because it was totally the opposite of being a member of the KKK, right? So, kind of hold that fun little nugget in your mind as we go through this, because it is definitely, something that Jim rallied against. Lynetta, she was a little bit more, I think, of a hippie soul that I would describe. She wasn't a big one for organized religion. She didn't care for sky gods, as she put it. I'm doing air quotes. If you're on Spotify, you can't see that, and I apologize. I talk with my hands a lot, but Lynetta was a free thinker. She was a free spirit. She was, she had an opinion, and she's going to tell you about it. And at this day and age, around that time, that was not okay for a woman to have an opinion. Oh, Hex, man, she's got a free thinker over here. She must be a witch. Something's going on. And she would curse in public, and people were like, oh, that's not ladylike. And she's like, F that, I'm going to curse if I want to, so she just did not conform to society whatsoever. I mean, she was like, I'm not doing what you think is normal. I'm doing what I want to do as normal. So very much a different soul, a different type of person, but her own person. And that's kind of cool, right? To just be your own person. But sadly, with that, she also had no desire to be a mother. She didn't have maternal instinct. She didn't want children. And, she fell pregnant with Jim. So, obviously this was a hard thing to swallow for her. Not want to be a mom. Now I'm pregnant. What do we do? And she just really wasn't a mother figure to him. She neglected him. She wasn't around a lot. And granted, she was working tons, because his father couldn't due to his disability. So she's out of the house, she's working, but that left Jim just severely neglected to the point where, some of the neighbors have come forward and said as a kid they found him wandering around the street with like no clothes on, things like that. So the neighbor ladies would take him in, they would feed him, they would, buy him little trinkets and toys and make sure he had clothes and stuff like that. So, kind of a sad situation there. And Jim would go on to say that he never really felt like his parents cared about him. And I find that to be really, really sad. And, he was home alone a lot, just not a lot of comfort in the home, and they ended up divorcing. So, it's kind of broken from the jump, and just, the pieces that are broken just go on to get more broken for him. But, his family, when they were together, they're described as living in absolute poverty. Like, like I said, dad can't work, mom's working all the time, but she's not keeping up with the bills. They end up, I think, getting kicked out of a home. They end up in a family home. Like the family bought them a shack basically to live in that has like no power, no running water, nothing. And, it's just, it was just kind of destitute. And the rumor was also that his father was an alcoholic. So you just couple all these things together, and this childhood was just not picture perfect at all. So, Jim he's feeling the neglect. He's feeling, I guess, yearning for something, yearning for someone to help him, and yearning for something to belong to, right? So, he starts going to school, or he's in school, and he becomes kind of the odd kid out, right? He's wearing his Sunday best to school all the time. He's wearing suits to school all the time. Now, the kids think that that's a little weird because young kids don't normally do that. I'm going to back him a little bit right here because, like, Cody Rhodes wears a suit all the time, and we already talked about my love of wrestling, and I love Cody Rhodes. If he had a cult, I'd probably join it. I probably shouldn't say that, but it's probably true. So if you hear that I disappear and you hear Cody Rhodes started a cult, you probably know where to find me. Just forward my mail. But anyway, so Jim's wearing these suits to school. He starts becoming, very involved in forming teams. So he starts wanting to play baseball, but he's not good at the sport, but he's very good at forming the team and leading the team. So, a little foreshadowing there of what's to come. But scarily, the baseball teams that he's forming and getting to play around the neighborhood and things like that, they come to an abrupt stop because Jim, I guess, gets ticked off one day at one of the other team members and decides, I guess, to show him what's what, and gets this neighborhood dog and drops it out of a window to its death in front of the kids. You want to suck the life out of a room or out of a ball game? By God, that is the way to do it. Dropping a dang dog out the window. But anyway, why does all this start like that? Why does it always start with pet abuse? Why does it always go there? Why? Why you guys gotta take it out on the dogs and the cats? The little puppies and kitties? What? I'd ask you what's wrong with you, but we know where this is headed. So anyway, I gotta stop, right? I gotta stop derailing here. It's gonna be a long one, and I'm already off the rails, and he's not even grown yet. Anyway, so, the baseball thing obviously didn't work out, because when you start killing dogs, that pretty much ends the game. So, Jim starts really exploring religion, and all the different denominations in the area, and if he could find churches that were, different religions, temples or whatever, he's wanting to go and he's wanting to figure it out. What do they believe versus what I believe, or, lack of thereof, because his mom wasn't a believer, but he had been taught a few things, what's going on? Because he's searching for a place to belong. And I think that's so common among religion and cults because people are searching for a home, right? They're searching for somewhere to go. And where the religion and the cult, they deviate. To me, if you find yourself, if you're a religious person and you find yourself a church home, that can be your comfort and your safe haven and whatnot. And the cult knows that, and when they spin off, they manipulate that, I think. And we'll see that here, I think, in a great, great detail. But a lot of the church ladies, they would notice the neglect and the yearning that Jim was expressing. And they decided that, they wanted to kind of take him under their wing, help him out. So one of the pastor's wives, she gave him a Bible, and he carries that Bible everywhere. Like, he carries it absolutely everywhere, and they're loving on him and they're trying to help him out. But they all kept saying that he was very obsessed, not just with the religion, but the aspect of death. And as a child, that's a little strange, right? My children have questions, obviously, about religion, and they hear things, they ask questions. And, we've lost family members since they've been old enough to understand that. And they may ask a few questions, but they don't obsess over it, right? They're not just sitting there talking about dying and stuff. And Jim was. He's just all about the death aspect of this. So, as much sympathy, wow, like, words are hard, as they have for him, that's a little, I get suspicious, right? Like, they're like, what's going on with this kid? What's he gonna, what's he about, kind of thing. So, I don't know. And it goes to the point where he becomes so obsessed with death that he starts visiting this, like, casket maker in town as a child. And then he starts, I guess, putting on funerals for roadkill. Because, there's nothing weird about that, right? At all. If you're on Spotify, then, you just imagine the face that I'm making right now. So when Jim turned 17, hopefully we're growing out of the roadkill funerals by this point, and he begins working at a hospital. So he's assisting in the hospital, and I don't really know that he had a legit title to him, but he was doing just anything basically that they needed. Like, if somebody got sick and threw up, call Jim, he's going to clean it up, right? So he's kind of just doing the grunt work that a lot of people wouldn't want to do, but he liked it. He wanted to pursue the medical field. Maybe, he really got into this, and he's like, I think I want to be a doctor, like, or a nurse or something that could help people. And great, definitely a step up from the roadkill funeral director. So he's on the right path, it sounds like, right? And then in 1948, he's working in the hospital, and he sees this cute little thing, and her name is Marceline, and she is a nurse, and he is just, kind of a smitten kitten over there, like, she's cute, let me go talk to her, see how, what her thoughts are about roadkill funerals or whatever, whatever he said. And Marceline, in turn, really takes to Jim. She likes the fact that he, is big into religion, or so he leads her to believe. And she loves his ideals because Jim is becoming very expressive about his ideals on inclusion and equality. And you remember me talking about, his dad was rumored to be in the KKK. Jim is going the total opposite way of this. And he is looking more towards, like, I want everybody to be in the same facility, church, building. We should all be worshiping together. We should be eating together, drinking together, congregating, fellowshipping, that type of stuff. And I got to commend him on that, right? Like, that was a big deal. And that is something to look up to from somebody that's, advocating for that. Marceline thought that he was a Christian. She was just super excited, and she fell for him. And the two end up getting married. And she was just, just over the moon. But shortly after they married, she was said to have realized that this might not be the correct interpretation that she thought it was of his beliefs and ideals. He would often tell her that, he didn't believe in her God, quote, air quotes, if you're listening to this. They would fight about it. They would get upset with each other over it. It was just very contentious, because if you are married or in a long-term relationship with someone, that things like that are big hot buttons. Religion, kids, and finances, I would think would be the top three, right? That you need to have common ground on. Or they need to not be a big deal to you, right? Like, if you're indifferent about whether you have children or not, then it might not matter. But if you're very adamant that you want to be a parent and your partner does not, there needs to be some conversation, same thing with this. But she thought she knew and she didn't. And then, she's like, well, what do I do? Well, she's so religious and so devout in her beliefs that divorce is not a thing for her, right? It's not a thing. She's not going to go there. So she's like, I'll change him, because that's what we women do, right? We're going to change him. Well, I mean, honey, he changed, but I don't know, or maybe got worse. I don't know that he changed. He just let more of the cat out of the bag or whatever. But anyway, they start visiting churches, right? They start going together. And eventually, Jim notices that he really gravitates towards the Black and African American churches in his community. He loves the services. He loves the way that they truly just they get into it, right? They want to be there. They are having a good time. They're singing, they're fellowshipping, they're worshiping, they're just enjoying the Spirit. And he feels like the white churches that he has been to, they feel more forced to be there. Like, this is just what you do. You get up on Sunday morning, you put on your Sunday best, you go to church, you leave, you go eat at the Shoney's buffet, and you come home, and then you go back on Sunday night, and then wash, rinse, repeat on Wednesday night, right? And he's not getting this feeling from the other community. He's feeling like they want to be there. This is what I want. I want people who want to be in church. That's who I want to worship with. So, he wants the warmth. He wants to not feel like, the coldness and the forcedness. So this starts to be what he evolves into being and what he wants to be. So around 1952, he starts student pastoring. And he now has decided, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. Now I want to be a pastor. So here we go. I'm going to talk about what Jesus did instead of trying to clean up vomit. I do roadkill funerals. I can't get off that. I'm sorry. But anyway, so he wants to be a pastor. Great. Still, great career. Awesome. So he decides that he wants to do, open his own church, have his own congregation. So he moves to Indianapolis. And he wants to be able to preach what he wants to preach, which is radical social change. All the inclusion and things that we're talking about. Because if you know anything about history, in the 50s, there was a lot of pushback sometimes on equality and inclusion. And Jim's like, heck no, we're going to change that. I'm going to be the revolutionary and the groundbreaker that pushes past that. And I'm going to incorporate Christianity and this, racial integration and equality into my church. And, churches were still segregated at this time. So it's groundbreaking and it's awesome. Like, yay, good job, Jim. For this, we will applaud you because, definitely took us a long time to get there. And in some cases, we still struggle. So awesome for anybody that wants to do that. So, here he goes, pushing forward to be a trailblazer. And Marceline is in his back pocket. She's like, baby, I got you. I'm going to work the church with you. I'm going to do all the scheduling. I'm going to tell you what you're going to talk about. Today, you're going to talk about Jesus doing this stuff. And yesterday, you're going to talk, or tomorrow, you're going to talk about, that Jesus is good and all this other stuff. And then you're going to do this and you're going to do X and you're going to do Y and you're going to do Z. So she's keeping him together. That whole behind every man is a good woman. Behind every good man is a good woman. She's living that role right now. Like, she is making sure he is going to succeed. She's keeping him together. And, the church grew. It grew quickly. They started outgrowing their building because, people are hearing about this and they like it. They want the inclusion factor. Oh, I dropped my Jim Jones glasses. Stand by. Okay. All right. It's okay, everybody. It's okay. We're good. So anyway, he's outgrowing his building. He's outgrowing this, the crowd that he's in. So he wants to, start, pulling in more people and more support so that way they can eventually find a bigger building. Because, once you start moving into bigger buildings, you also need more support and more money, right? So he starts performing miracles. He's healing people. Like, by the power of Jesus, you are healed. And he's screaming this from the rafters. And at first it's like just, it's pumping people up. They're like, oh man, this Jim Jones' church has got some miracles over here. They healed Joe Bob's headache. Like, what in the world could he do for me? Like, let's go see. Let's go see. Put on, get your shoes on, get your backpack. Let's go. So they're performing these miracles, and they're passing out those collection plates like left, right, and sideways, right? Like, come on, you don't have to donate, but man, we wish you would, because we can keep this going. So that's what people do. They start donating, and the money is coming in. Like, he is making some bank, right? Because who don't want to pay for a miracle, right? Like, who don't want to pay for a miracle? I would. I mean, if you told me, like, girl, I can heal, your back ain't gonna hurt because your 40-year-old knees ain't gonna hurt when you get up off the ground, like, he can heal that, I'd be like, here's $5. Take it. Here's 20. I don't know. I mean, I ain't got much money, but what I got, take it. And, Jim sees this, and he's like, holy hell, y'all. I'm on to something here. Like, I got a fish on this hook, and I ain't about to let it go. I'm going to take this show on the road, baby. Let's go. Let's start traveling to other churches, because some of these people ain't heard of me, and I am going to put this out there. So he does. They hit the road. They start going to neighboring churches, and they are like, we're going to start healing people in these churches. They ain't seen this before. Well, you got to make sure that works, right? Because otherwise you're not going to be able to sell the story. So he convinces some of his congregation to be plants in the audience, like they do on game shows and all that kind of stuff. And wrestling. I'm a wrestling fan. They do it there. So he puts them in the audience, and he's like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. Because a headache's cool. Like, cooling a headache, curing a headache, like, that's cool, right? Like, nobody's head wants to hurt. Nobody wants their head to hurt. Wait, whatever. Dang, man. You can tell it's a Monday. But he's like, but it'd be real cool if I cured their cancer. Yeah, buddy. Like, I'm going to cure their cancer. So he's putting all these people, like, all around everywhere. And he's like, I need y'all to stand up and speak if you've been healed by the power of Jesus. And they jump up and they be like, I came to see that Jim Jones, and he healed my cancer. I ain't sick no more. And people are like, oh, damn. Like, I need to pay this guy. I need to give him some money because, I don't want cancer. Like, I don't want it. They're throwing money like it's a strip club on a Saturday night, and it's the A-team on stage. Like, they are ready. And so what does Jim do? He buys himself a bigger building, because that's what he's been wanting to do, right? And at first he's like, okay, well, we're going to call this new church, we're going to call it the Community Unity. I don't know why it's so funny to me, but it is like Community Unity. It sounds like a name I'd come up with because it rhymes. And I'm literally like 4 years old, okay, when it comes to naming stuff. So, like, beyond reasonable doubt, the name of this podcast, right? I didn't make that up, like, come on. But anyway, he's like Community Unity. But then when they seek out and they find their new building, the word temple is already on the building. So he's like, there's no reason to fix what ain't broke. So let's call it the People's Temple, because the temple's already on there. We'll just roll with it. But now we got a bigger building thanks to all these people, but now the building's even bigger and we need to fill it up. So we need more people. And by really, filling it up, he really just wanted to stuff his pockets, I think. But whatever, At this point, he's still preaching the equality and the unity and all that stuff. So I'm going to go with him. I'm going to throw Jim a bone, even though he's lying about curing cancer. But so they start taking to the streets with protests and visiting predominantly known white businesses that don't typically allow anyone of color into their facility. So they'll go sit down at a restaurant, and he'll take some of his congregants of color, and he'll be like, come in here with me, we're going to see if we can get served. And of course, half the time they couldn't, because that was the time that they were living in. And he's like, all right, then we're going to protest. And so they would go and they would, carry on a peaceful protest outside, up until the point that these business owners would cave in and give in. And Jim would say, all right, well, I got a lot of people, in my congregation. And because you are an inclusive business now, we're going to make sure that, we frequent these businesses more and more and spread the word that you're an inclusive business in the community. And, these small business owners, they start making mad money too, right? And they're all about it. They're like, Jim's making money, we're making money. We are okay with this. And, it outside of it kind of is rooted in greed, I guess. It's a great thing, right? Because he is pushing forward to not let a business say that you can't dine in it or shop in it or whatever because of the color of your skin. And for that, Jim, you're working hard, and I'm proud of you for that part. I just wish you'd stayed on that pathway instead of taking the hard right that we're about to take, getting, we're supposed to be driving up the on-ramp and he's driving back down it or something. But, either way, Jim, we salute you for the goodness of that part. But it wouldn't last, unfortunately. Around 1965, Jim and Marceline decide that they need to move into the area of California. They feel like this would be a good, influential place for their church and their congregation to move to. And it's a more free-thinking, forward-thinking area in their opinion. So they're going to go out there, and they had about 50 or 60 of their congregants follow them out there, which is what they wanted, because they're wanting to grow the church. So they need a little bit of foundation, to put it on, right? And he starts worrying because the church just it's not catching on like he wants it to out there. And, then his marriage isn't doing the best either, right? Marceline has fallen ill. She has debilitating back issues, right? She's got issues with her back. She's got 4 kids. I think 1 was biological and 3 were adopted, but I might have that mixed wrong. But either way, 4 babies to look after. So she's focused on her family like she has to be because Jim's out preaching and doing all these things. Somebody's got to take care of these kids, right? So she's doing all that. And Jim has an affair. And he has an affair with a young thing in the congregation, like 19 years old, kind of young. Like, okay. So, he knows, flat out, this is against his preachings. And he knows that is about to hit the fan, right? It's gonna come out. It's gonna hit the fan. So he's like, I'm gonna get in front of this. Cause I'm a leader. I'm good at forming teams and manipulating. So I'm gonna get in front of this. So he goes and he tells Marceline what's going on. He's like, hey, you're not able to perform because of your disability, and I need needs met, and she meets my needs, and that's all it is. It's purely physical. And I guess she's like, well, okay. I don't know how the conversation went down, but she seems to be okay with it. And, get this, though, beyond the fact that he survived the confession to his wife, because, I don't know how they grow them in Indiana where they met, but down here, if you told your wife that, you might catch a skillet upside the head. I don't know what's going to happen, but Marceline's like, all right, do your thing, I guess. I don't know. So, get this, though. He goes in front of the congregation and he confesses. He tells them what he's doing. He's like, I tell you what, guys. He's like, I don't know why I'm laughing because it's funny. But he's like, I've been having an affair. And she's right over there. He's like, I've been having an affair with this young 19-year-old little thing. And she's right over there. Baby, say hi. Stand up. Wave to the crowd, girl. Waves. Look at her. Ain't she cute, y'all? Ain't she cute? Now, as stupid as that sounded with me doing that right there, that's how stupid I assumed this sounded. But yeah, he just tells it. And they're all like, okay. They take it in stride. They don't say a word about it. They keep on keeping on. And he keeps on leading. And I'm like, all right, so here we go, but he keeps on leading the church. They're accepting of what he does, and they're back out in the street, and he's preaching, and they're selling pictures of him and doing all these things. And with these street preachings and selling pictures and all this type of stuff, he performs still like the small healings that he was doing. He starts to collect their names and addresses, and they're mailing out paraphernalia and things like that to other congregants, hoping that they would come to the church, but more so even just to donate. And they did. I mean, they start donating. They weren't necessarily asking for donations, but it was one of those, like, if you so choose to donate, here's the mechanism to do so. We'll take it. And people were, they were donating and their money, and then the congregation themselves, they were expected to donate as well. So anything that they that no longer needed, or things that they had outgrown. The People's Temple formed this like store that the way that I took it is almost like a Goodwill or Salvation Army, whichever you have around you, and they could donate their items there. They would sell them, and then the money went back into the church, and then they could also work there. So it was kind of a twofold type of thing. And then with the money that they're bringing in, they started building dormitories and things like that around the local colleges so that they could send their college-age congregants to school. And they could live in these dormitories for free, and they would pay for their books, and they would help pay for tuition. They'd provide them with meals. So, I mean, like, they're doing some stuff. I mean, they're not just sitting around, like, hoping for the best. I mean, they're taking their money and they're putting it to what seems on the surface to be great use, right? I guess the only negative here was, from how I understand it, is if you were a member of the People's Temple on a college campus, you would try to recruit, obviously. But if someone wasn't open to the recruiting or wasn't a member, they would kind of seclude themselves away from these people. They didn't really want to mix if you weren't willing to, come into the fold kind of thing. So you start to see the blocking, right? They're controlling everything about your life, even though it seems good because they're helping you. It's a control thing. It's a control mechanism, right? So, with this control starts to become Jim's just like radicalization to instill fear into the congregation of, racist, of course, which, they are scary to me anyway. Like, I think that's scary for someone to be that hateful-minded. But he starts putting ideas in their head too, even more so, about the government and things like that. Starts kind of controlling them with the fear-mongering, and he'll deepen that as we go. And then he starts controlling their finances even more. They were originally working and taking and being able to get a little bit of money and things like that from if they worked at the shops or whatever. But then he starts kind of harping on them like, hey, I saw you guys out at a movie last night. I mean, or dinner or a theme park or whatever. If you had the money to go out on that date night, then you should be putting that into the church. You should be doing work at the church. Like, you're not supposed to be having these fun nights out and spending money. You're not supposed to be having romantic relationships that are distracting you from God's work. If you came into the church and you were married, like, cool, but you're probably never going to see each other because you're too busy working for the church. Like, it very much became like your life and the church were not separated anymore. Like, you didn't go to church service and then go home and carry on, going to work Monday through Friday kind of thing. It was working for the church, attending church services, doing mission work and all these types of things, which nothing wrong with that. If that is your life's work, is serving God or serving your church or your religion, nothing wrong with that until it starts to turn sinister like this does. The church, even, I'm laughing already. I can't not laugh about this. The church started buying buses so that way they could like reach more people. And all I could think about was whenever I read this was like, I mean, if there were like sandwiches involved, like we would straight up be talking like Yellow Deli, 12 tribes, pastrami on rye kind of situation. But because what is with the buses, people? But they feel like that they can get to more people this way and then go do even more healings, right? So Jim's like, all right, I gotta do some healings, but we need to do something like that's a little bit more oomph factor. I know sorry, that's kind of scary the way I did that. I didn't mean to do that. But we need to do something like a little bit more like of a big splash. Like I'm thinking like the Seth Rollins croc boots. Like if you know what I'm talking about. Something with a splash. So he starts doing these healings and he goes back to the cancer thing. And he puts, he gets all the names of the folks that come into the building and he picks one out at random and he's like, you have cancer, you just don't know it yet. And the person's like, oh, crap. Like, what? What's going on? And he has a planted nurse from the church in the audience. And he's like, I'm going to need you to clean their mouth so that way I can heal them. I don't have a clue what that has to do with having cancer or whatever. Like, why you need to clean your mouth? I mean, like, what? How are you? Excuse me, sir, but exactly how are you planning on curing my cancer? But okay, whatever. But anyway, so the nurse is going to go up and she's going to like clean their mouth out with like a swab thingy. I'm picturing like a strep test. The big like giant long cotton swab that they stick like all the way down into your stomach to see if you have strep throat. And when she's doing this, she's like, open wide, swabbing. This is so gross. They drop a piece of chicken liver into their mouth as far back in their throat like as they can get it, which causes the person to gag. Like, who wouldn't gag? And then first of all, like, what in the salmonella are you trying to do to somebody? Like, you've had this chicken liver in your pocket, like, what, I don't know, since you guys like left San Francisco and you're in like Seattle or something, like, gross. But anyway, so they start gagging and they're like, spit it out, ah, you got the cancer, spit it out. So they spit it out. And then like the nurse is like walking around like, look at it. He did it. He healed him. He did. Jim healed him. Oh my God, Jim. Jim. And people are buying this. They're buying this. They are buying that he has healed their chicken liver cancer. So, I mean, yay, I guess. But, I mean, like, I don't know. I would think I would know the difference in spitting out something that somebody just tossed in my mouth. Then I would think I just had cancer. But I've also never been told that I had cancer, so maybe I wouldn't because it would freak me out so much. Even coming from a stranger that basically, like, I mean, you don't know this guy anymore from somebody that was pumping gas next to you at a gas station. And so, like, if the dude next to you at the Exxon is like, hey, you've got cancer, and I know. Are you going to believe that? Please tell me you won't. Don't do that. Don't believe stuff people tell you at the gas station. Don't do that. Don't do that. And don't believe Jim Jones either. I mean, you can't now, but anyway, I don't know. So anyway, he's out here curing chicken liver cancer, okay? So he's curing the people of the chicken liver. So, yay for that. All right, so around 1971, he's really getting into the drugs too. He's starting to take uppers and downers, and these were prescription drugs that were pretty readily available to him because of his members of his congregation. He could get them from them pretty easily. And, quite honestly, it's kind of made me laugh because I was like, you're telling me that the chicken liver cancer stuff was like pre-drugs. Like, it sounds like a trip to me. But clearly no, we went on and did drugs and got really heavily into it past this point. I mean, he's taking things to get up. He's taking things to go to bed, taking things to keep going, quite frankly. And I'm getting comfortable because the dog wants up here. And you guys know I'm okay with my little buddy up here. There she is. So anyway, with all the drugs also comes some erratic behavior. He's lashing out, he's getting more angry, things like that. And then his eyes too are super bloodshot, kind of, like we would expect to see from somebody who's abusing drugs. Usually the eyes are the telltale window to the soul thing, right? So Jim takes this, he takes this a little further. I'm so sorry. But that is where the infamous dark sunglasses come to play, and I'm trying to get the ring light out of them, but it's actually, I'm gonna leave it here because it's fitting for this. So he says that, and now I have a cat here, he says that the reason that he's got to wear these dark sunglasses, now mind you, it's not to hide the drug abuse, it's not to hide the fact that I'm doing the uppers, the downers, the stair normalers, whatever. He's doing it because He's got so much of the Christ-like energy in him that the holy glow is emitting from his eyeballs. And if he looks at his congregation too firmly, too much, too straightforward, he'll burn them. He's gonna burn them. So he's wearing these to keep the lasers from coming out. So yeah, like the light just fitting. It's just fitting in there, isn't it? Like, I mean, I don't want to burn y'all, so I'm gonna keep these on. Don't want the laser beams in my eyeballs to burn you. And they believed this mess, y'all. They believed it. Hook, line, and sinker. Like, no questions. No questions. No questions. Like, the holy glow is coming out of my eyes, and I don't want to burn you. I question how many people were on drugs in this, but that's probably not very kind of me to say. But anyway, all right, so that said, with the drugs comes not just the erratic behavior of the anger, but it becomes the anxiety, right? Like, I think anytime you see somebody who's really abusive of drugs, they become very anxious. They become very suspicious of things that, we wouldn't normally, I guess, I don't want to say not suspicious of, but just the run-of-the-mill things, start to really make them feel some kind of way. And Jim's is the government. He is terrified and wants to instill fear in his congregants that the government, the FBI, the CIA, they're watching them. There is, just this huge suspicion around them. And I'm not talking like question things the government does. You should always question things that don't sound right? I don't care if it's the government or who it is, but this is like foil hat wearing suspicion. Like, there's this conspiracy. They're going to kill us all. And I wish you guys can see in my notes how I spelled suspicion, because it's like suspicion. But I mean, like, you would, well, first of all, you'd think I had like a second grade education just based on the way that I wrote it. And I mean, I think I confirmed it if you saw that, but it's fitting. Like, I mean, because it's just wild stuff. Like, he's telling them, like, the government's watching just us. They're going to come kill just us. Like, we've got to, like, I don't know. We've got to do something. We gotta do something. But yeah, the suspicion is there. Like, I was like, okay, all right. I'm sorry. Back to laser eyes. So he's been teaching the church members all this whole time, and he himself and Marceline how to be frugal, right? Like, they're driving beater cars, they're wearing secondhand clothes, they don't live in anything expensive because they have been, like, kind of squirreling away their money, and saving up and things like that. But he's spending this money on drugs. Like, he's blowing through some stash on drugs. With the drugs have come more women. Like, he's got multiple, like, mistresses everywhere. I mean, pretty much if you are in the church, you're hooking up with Jim. You're clanging and banging with Jim. That's a Jim term. That's a Jim term. But anyway, you're Jim's probably, like, using his laser beam on you. Okay, I'm also 12. I'm second grade education, but I'm 12 years old. And I don't get that, because I mean, it's like every cult. Like, every cult, eventually it all ends up with the cult leader, like, banging everybody that they can and want to in the fold. And I don't get that. Like, how? Like, I mean, the women just were like, yeah, it's part of our duty to hook up with the church leader. And I'm like, is it? Like, never one time have I been to church and I've been told that's part of my duty as a church member. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not how that works. But anyway, like, eventually the whole church, sleeping with the whole dang crowd and nobody says a thing. Like, I mean, are you even a cult if you're not banging every chick in a cult leader if you're not banging every chick in the thing? Like, no, can't be, right? So anyway, he's got all these mistresses going on. He's got all this erratic behavior. He's got, just the money that has been pulled in. And he decides, like, with this whole anti-government movement, he wants to take his his members and move to somewhere where they can create like this little utopia for themselves, right? Like this self-sustaining place. And he finds the perfect, like big, like kind of secluded plot of land in Guyana, South America. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I think I am. But it's near a port city, so you can get things in and out. It's easily traveled by boat from Miami, but the area itself is like in the forest or jungle, whatever. I've never been to South America, so I don't know if it's a forest or a jungle, but whatever. It's treed. It's they can very much isolate there, and that's what he wants. So they make a purchase. They have the promised land down there. They're going to get away from the government, get away from the CIA, because he's convinced his members now at this point that if they don't move with him, the CIA and the FBI are going to come and they're either going to kill him or they're going to put him in concentration camps. Like that is what is about to happen. Like they're against them. They're against what they stand for, and they are going to just lock them up and throw away the key. And nobody that's ever studied any kind of history wants to be in a concentration camp, right? So they're like, oh heck no. Let's get on the boat, let's get to Guyana, and let's do this. They get there, and they've got, they named the place Jonestown, because what else would it be called, right? Come on. Laser Town? I'm not going to get off the laser beam eyes. I'm sorry, I'm not. But anyway, so they get there, they name it Jonestown, and they start constructing cottages and things for people to live in. There's not enough. So it's just like this constant movement of trying to get places for people to live, because I guess more folks showed up than they thought. But it's also very much ruled with an iron fist by Jim himself. Like you can't plant a plant. You can't move a rock. You can't get mail. You can't date nobody without Jim saying it's okay. Like he's got to go through it. He's going to read your mail. He's going to check out who you think you're going to be dating. And I guess if you're one of those girls that he's hooking up with, I guess he's got to, I don't know if he'd let you, because he's got everybody. So while he's busy with them, maybe he gives you somebody to go be busy with or whatever. I don't know. But he is truly ruling this place like he is the king. Man, he is all about it. And he knows about everything. He knows about every single thing that's in the mail. He knows what they're talking about. He knows what they're doing. It's crazy. Like how he, ran this place. And say that they wrote a letter home, like, hey mom, miss you, wish you were here. It's kind of hard. The cottage is kind of small. We don't have any money. We're hungry. Blah, 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 blah. He's like, no, rewrite it. You're going to rewrite it because we are creating an image here. Like he wants Jonestown. He wants it on posters. Posters that are like, oh, come visit Jonestown. Wish you were here in Guyana. Like a beach and a sunset and a Mai Tai and all that stuff. That's what he's wanting people to think. When in reality, they're living in poverty. People keep showing up and there's just not enough. There's not enough food to go around. They're drinking, their water is bad. Like the conditions of the water is very poor. They don't have a ton of supply of it to begin with. The cottages, they're having to keep on building cottages just to hopefully, have a place to lay down. Probably got dirt floors and stuff. Who knows? But the members believe in him. They believe in what he's preaching. They're like, welcome to paradise. Here we are. It's crap on a cracker, but we're here. But Jimbo Slice over here, he ain't living like that. No, he's got a decent cottage, right? It's not bad. He's got a radio in there that he can talk to everybody. So he ain't even got to come out. He ain't got to come out and walk around in the hot. Because I'm assuming it's hot. I don't know why. I just picture it being hot. He ain't got to come out. He can talk over the PA to all of them. He's got fans. He's got them girls running in and out left, right, and sideways. I guess the ones he likes the most get to live in the cottage with him. He's doing all right. He got a nice bed, all the stuff. He don't got to leave, kick back, just sitting here. His life is the poster, right? It is the poster. But all his other folks, it's not. And the kicker, there's the kick in the flat out pants, man, was these people, some of them are receiving Social Security checks. Well, I told you Jim's going through all the mail, right? Well, they're not getting those checks because he is, and he's cashing them. He is cashing and collecting their checks. JJ, what are you doing? JJ, talking to you. Like, why? What are you doing? I mean, but regardless, like, money is tight. It doesn't matter how many checks he's getting. Like, there's so many people. It's just not enough to go around. So the adults on the Jonestown compound, they start like carving trinkets and toys and things out of wood, and then they'll sell them in Georgetown, which is the neighboring town right over. That's the port city. They'll sell them over there to bring in some money, you know. And I mean, they're doing okay. I mean, it's not like the worst business idea ever, but it's not, you know, it's not super lucrative when you've just got droves of people showing up, and we've literally created a civilization here that wasn't here before. So we're starting from ground zero, we're starting from scratch. And when we get here, like, other than the money they bring with them, it's not like there's industry. You know, they didn't go down there and start working at the Honda plant. Like, I mean, there's nothing there. So they're hungry. They're running out of food. They're surviving on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which, you know, great, but nobody wants to eat that day after day after day. And they are put in, like, you know, they have the water. I told you the water's not the best, and the supply is low. They do have Flavor Aid to put in. And I keep seeing that it's Kool-Aid, and it was Flavor Aid. So, like, JJ ain't even popping for, like, the name brand. But, like, yeah, I'm assuming, you know, this is where the whole don't drink the Kool-Aid comes from. You know, we'll get there. But they're drinking the Flavor Aid water to at least have a little taste of something. And then if they were just, like real good on Sunday, he would give them a cookie. But, like, one. I don't know how big it was. I hope it was, like, a cookie cake. But I doubt it. It was probably, like, one of them little, like, not the big Oreo, but, like, the mini bag. I feel like it was, like, one out of the bag. So, I mean, like, this jerkwad, he won't even pay for, like, the Kool-Aid, name brand Kool-Aid. He giving them a single cookie if they're good. And I don't even know what good means. Like, I mean, I'm assuming it ain't me. I'm assuming I wouldn't get a cookie because I'm going to act a fool whenever you're only giving me peanut butter and jelly. I ain't got no water and it's hot. Like, and I'm hungry. If I'm hot and I'm hungry, I can guarantee you I'm not getting a cookie. Guarantee you, because I'm going to act up. I'm going to act up all day. I'll do that now if I get hungry. Like, I'm hungry right now. So I'm probably getting mad. That's why I'm acting this way. That's why I'm talking this way, because I'm mad right now because I'm hungry. It happens. So anyway, all right. So you know, if you broke the rules, not only did you not get your cookie, but you weren't allowed to eat, sleep, or talk to anybody else there. They could not look at you. They could not talk to you. Nothing. And then you had to, like, run the island, or it's not an island, run the perimeter of the town. You had to run, and, you know, like I said, it's hot. It's not pristine conditions anyway. So it was punishment. It was rough. And they're at about 900 people at this point. So it's a sizable amount of folks, you know, that have followed him here, that are believing this. I mean, that's a decent number. Several churches don't have that type of congregation even today. And he's holding, like, you know, nightly meetings for the folks, and he's telling them the Jim Jones version of the news, because they don't have anything to communicate out with. They can send, like, snail mail in and out, but he's controlling that, right? So he tells them his version of the news, and it's very twisted. It's made up. You know, it's what he is wanting them to believe and hear. And, you know, it's everything from just, you know, how bad things were, you know, going in America, and how they're after them, they're coming for them, they're this, they're that, they're all the stuff. And, you know, the people are beaten down, their passports are locked up, so they can't really leave. They can try, they can ask to leave, but if they do, they have to pay for their passport. Well, where are they going to get money? Like, where's the money come from, right? Because he's keeping it all internally. So it's very hard to get off the island, or get off. I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just, it's asinine. It's horrible. It's horrible conditions. It's imprisonment. It's enslavement. You know, all the things, right? And Jim, like I said, he's fear-mongering them into wanting to be there, because they're so scared of, if they leave, of what might happen to them, because they think everybody's coming for them. And then if they do decide to leave, he's making them sign contracts, if they can buy their way out, that they will never speak ill of the church. And, if you have to do that, you've got issues, right? You got a problem going on. Because, if it's truly a paradise, why would anyone say anything bad about it, right? But some of these people, they sign their contracts and they're like, this contract's about as worthless as he is, so I'm going to talk. I'm going to tell people. And they know, I think, word's getting back. Yeah, Jim knows that, people are talking, right? He's not stupid. And he's got any communication he wants. So he has the folks start preparing for, the whole, STHF type situation. He's like, it's going to hit the fan eventually. They're going to come kill us all. We got to get ready. So they start smuggling in and storing up ammo and weapons and all these things because they're getting ready for the invasion. They're getting ready. They're going to need protection. And he even builds up a security team that they guard. They're supposed to guard the perimeter, right, of Jonestown. They're supposed to be helping police the perimeter. But it goes even farther than that. They're actually turning on the members of Jonestown. If they, start acting up, they would physically hurt them if they didn't, follow the rules, So, now people are getting scared, right? They're actually seeing a point when some of their fellow followers who, I guess they really acted up, getting shot in front of them. So they are scared. They're scared. They don't know, now it's nothing is safe, right? Where they thought they were safe, they're being protected from the CIA and the FBI and all these people who are against them and what they're being told. And now even the security's turning on them. So I can't imagine the mindset that they're in right now, truly. So Jim decides in, I think it was February of 1978, that he's got to call the people. He's got to get them all together and call a meeting. And he's like, all right, I've gotten word. They're coming. The CIA, the FBI, they're coming. They're raiding the town, and they are going to kill us all, including our children. Now, the concentration camps are off the table now. They're just going to murder us all. And how would one combat this, right? How would one combat this? Well, in Jim's idea, it was to all drink from these giant barrels and take their own lives with a pre-made poison. That way it deprives the government of the satisfaction of taking the lives of all the people of Jonestown. So he fills the barrels up. They push them out there. They're like, get in line, get your cup, fill it up. You'll be dead in 40 minutes. And I'm going to preach the whole time. And we're going to go out. It's going to be peaceful. We're going to go out, like little Jonestown soldiers, right? Yada, yada, blah, 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 blah. And help your kids drink it. If they, if they can't drink themselves, you're going to help them. So they do. They all fall in and they do what they're told. And, they're all sitting around, right? They're listening to him preach and everybody's done drinking and they're all sitting around. They're waiting on somebody to fall over first. It's been 40 minutes. Since John went through the line because he was first. When's he going to kill out? And then, Jim's just oh yeah, that was a test. There's nothing in that. It's just a regular flavor aid. Don't worry about it. And y'all, not that I'm going to be standing in line to drink poison. Let me be honest. Let me just be very clear. Even if I join the Cody Rhodes cult, I'm not going to drink poison for nobody. Nobody, not on purpose now. We in a true crime channel here. We know that people have not done it on purpose. But I'm definitely not going to line up to do it. But let me just tell you, if I did, we're going to play devil's advocate here. If I drank the poison and somebody's like, oh, it's just messing with you. I just need to see if you were loyal and trusted me. I am going to take my earrings off and I am going to show my Kool-Aid drinking butt right there in front of God and everybody. You're just messing with me at this point. You're taking people who are already afraid. They don't know what to do. They're getting shot if they stay. Apparently they're gonna be locked up in a camp if they get out. It's just it's a mess. And then now you're just screwing with them. That's wrong on so many levels. Not that I expect a cult leader to be on the up and up, but and first, but let's go back because you know how much I love the laser eye thing. Like, I mean, if you really thought that they were all coming to attack you and kill everybody, and you wanted everybody just to get put down so that way that they couldn't have the satisfaction of killing them, why didn't you just zap them with your laser eyes? Why don't you just burn them up? Like, I mean, wouldn't that be like, I don't know why the burn up noise was like, but there you go. That's that. If you burn up, that's your noise you're gonna make, according to me. But I mean, why wouldn't you just do that, Jim? Why wouldn't you do it? Just we got the glass. If you're on Spotify, I got the glasses back on. Why don't you just take them mugs off, just like that, and just burn them up, burn everybody up? Why? Why are we not doing that? Oh, that's right, because you are full of blankety blank. And you know it. You're full of something that ain't Flavor Aid. That's what you are. All right. Anyway, I'm off that. And why was no one asking that? Why am I the only one that's asking that? Why? I mean, I'm not we already proved, but the way that I suspicion that I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar, and the very ill-equipped jar of Jonestown, because you only get one. But why am I the only one asking that? Like, why would you not just, like, burn me with your laser vision, Jimbo? Like, shoot. Anyway, here's the test, and they didn't get upset. They're all like, oh, my God, Jim, he got me. Ah, you got me, buddy. You got me this time, like, okay. But, all right, so, he's in a wild place, clearly, because he's just testing these poor people out. They're in a wild place because they're like, oh, I love him so much that I'm willing to drink the Kool-Aid for him and then not even get mad when it's not actually Kool-Aid or poison Kool-Aid, whatever. But, anyway, he's in this paranoid state, and we can clearly see, I mean, if you got a red flag, you've been waving it this whole time, but this is a recipe for disaster, not just recipe for poison, just absolute disaster. Because when you have somebody who is narcissistic and has to be in control, has to be in power, they've mixed drugs into the situation, and then now they're paranoid and all these things on top of it, we're not going to end well. We're not, and we're headed down that road right now. The friends and the family members of these cult members who are residing in Jonestown, they're getting worried, right? Like, the stuff's not sounding right. They can't really talk to them, and when they do, it's weird. They know that this is not right. A few that have made it out have told the authorities, and they've been trying to get them to do something, for a minute, right? Like, they're like, something's not right. We need y'all to check on them. I mean, mind you, they're in South America now, so the U.S. is, we're over here doing our thing. They're down there doing their thing. But finally in 1978, a congressman by the name of Leo Ryan is like, I'm going to go check it out. Like, it don't sound right. And, where there's that much smoke, there's usually a little bit of fire, right? So let's go down there. Let's check it out. Let's see what's happening. And, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, because they're saying that people are being held against their will and all these things. And there's a lot of abuse going on. So he's going to fly down, and he's going to stay down there for the night and then come back the next day and, like, report back on what he's found, right? So, he goes into the town when he gets there. He flies in. And, of course, they get word that he's coming, and they're all acting just, like biscuits and gravy, right? Like, everything's fine. We're good. Everything's beautiful. So he's like, I'm going to get back in my truck, head back to the airstrip. Nothing to see here. I'm going home. Well, a few of the temple members are like, hey, we want to go back with you. Can we please come back to the U.S.? And he's like, sure. Your free will. You should be able to do whatever you want. So they do. They get in the truck and they get ready to drive. Well, some of the security, of course, has seen this, and they're like, oh, no, snap, he's taking them, just like Jim said, right? Like, he's taking them back to the camps, and he's going to kill them and all this stuff. So they just open fire on the truck. And, of course, everybody's in a panic now, right? There's chaos. Stuff's happening. Like, it's bad. So they get away. They escape the security, and they get to the airstrip. Well, sadly, what they don't know, they think they've made it, but they're ambushed at the airstrip, right? Security shows up, and they just unload on them. The congressman is killed. 3 members of the press that came with him are killed. Several others are injured, and it is just melee, right? People are running into the forest. It's, I can't imagine, okay? Well, in the meantime, Jim is, he's back at camp, right? He's at the Jonestown camp, and he is like, comes over his PA, like, I'm just picturing him sitting back, like, like Jabba the Hutt, like, yes, kick back, king of the castle, and then he hits that PA button. And he's like, y'all need to get y'all's butts to the pavilion right now. Like, we got to talk. Family meeting, right? Family meeting now. So, this is where meetings would always take place, within this big pavilion that they had built. And they were always recorded, much like this one is today. So recordings are going on. And he starts telling the congregation all he ever wanted for them was to give them a good life and to try to do better. And he did the best he could. But unfortunately, the CIA is come. They have come. The man that came, he was with them, and he has shot the pilot of the plane, and they are blaming the members of Jonestown for the shooting. And that means that the government is going to just now swarm in on them and kill the whole town. And this is real. And they've all seen this guy, right? So they know, like, we're not playing like we were last time, just testing loyalty. So he's like, all right, it's time. It's time to drink the Kool-Aid, man. The flavor. It's time to drink it. So they pull the barrels back out. Now, mind you, he knows the truth. He knows what actually happened. His little minions and security detail, they've told him what really happened. So he's lying to all these people yet again. And he's like, get in line. Get in line, get your cup, and drink, and help your kids drink. And, here we go. And they do. They get in line, and they start to drink. And the first thing that they do is the women give their babies the poison. And if you've never listened to the recordings, they are out there. You can listen to them. They're called the Jonestown Death Tapes. I wouldn't. I did. I listened to it. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to ruin your day. You're forever changed when you hear these cries for help. You hear the kids, you hear babies crying. You hear him saying, mother, stop crying. Just give your babies this, that, or the other, and help them. And people pleading, like, isn't there another way? And, and he's just, nope, there's no other way. Nope, drink it. And even Marceline is like wailing, and I've heard that she's the one that you can hear him saying, mother, calm down, basically, too, because she doesn't want to drink. And then she finally does when she sees that her children have all partook in the poison and are dead. But I wouldn't listen to this. I mean, just trust your friend here. Trust your friend Misty here that you don't want to listen to this unless you just want to ruin your day, because it's heartbreaking, because you slowly hear. Like, I'm getting emotional, man. I don't even know why. Like, I didn't even get emotional really when I listened to it. Because I was just like, it's surreal. Like, you're like, there's no way this is real, right? Like, it can't be. And then you're like, oh, it is, right? But you just hear this hush slowly falling over everything. And you know what's going on, right? And his last words to the group were like, we did not commit suicide. We committed an act of revolutionary suicide, protesting the conditions of an inhumane world. And, and then I'm mad because I'm just like, you're the one that created the inhumane world, Jim. You did it. You did this. I mean, but anyway, the next day, the authorities in Guyana, they come over and they find just body after body after body. They're just everywhere. Like, there's photos, and it's insane. Like, I mean, it's just miles of it, it looks like. I mean, probably not miles, but like, just as far as you can see. It's so sad. And then they start to find these markings on people that are from needles. And what they believe is that some folks did not want to drink. And they held them down, and they injected it with the poison anyway. So, I mean, they were just flat out murdered, right? And then Jim, douchebag, douche canoe Jim, he is on the stage sprawled out, and he and a mistress, it is concluded that they died from a gunshot wound to the head. Now, I don't know why I don't know why she's the special one, but I guess, the poison wasn't good enough for them. They didn't want to suffer, because, I mean, he didn't know what this was going to do to nobody. He ain't a chemist. Come on now. He don't know. So he don't know if it's going to hurt, if it's peaceful. He's just telling them that BS. So he's like, I ain't gonna chance that. Pow. So I don't know if this was the favorite mistress or what she was, but he let her take herself out that way too. Like, I mean, I got words for you too, honey, and they're not nice. They're not nice at all, because I'm like, whatever. I mean, but I do feel sorry for these people, because, like, I don't think you get into this situation knowingly and then you're in too deep and you're brainwashed before you ever even realize it. Like, I mean, you know, and then these poor babies who didn't have a clue what was going on, you know. I don't know. I mean, none of the stuff with Jim, it obviously wasn't in the tapes. You didn't hear him die, or at least not the version I heard anyway. But I just think he's a coward. He's a coward because he could tell everybody else to go out that way, but he couldn't do it himself. So, way to go. Way to go, Jim. Way to be a team player. But anyway, the U.S., you know, they get their troops and they fly down once they hear of this. And I think there was, like, originally the death toll was like around the 300s, but it was confirmed by the U.S. that it was actually 909 people that lost their lives that day. And I mean, that's huge, and it's scary. And up until 9/11, it was like the single, I think it was the single most U.S. lives lost in a single event like that. So, I mean, it's crazy to me, right? One guy telling all these people to do this, and he had that much power over them mentally that they took their own lives. And the saddest part of it to me was that I think it was 409 of these people have never been identified, because Guyana, it was harsh, hot, humid conditions. So they decomposed very quickly and very badly. And they hadn't been to dentists and things, because that wasn't the norm for them there. They didn't do modern medicine and things like that, so they didn't know who they were. So there was just like this mass burial in Oakland, California for them. And that to me is just heartbreaking, you know, that there's loved ones that may not know whatever happened to them, because maybe they didn't even know they were there. You know, you didn't know. Of course, the FBI, they went all through Jim's cottage, and they found all sorts of recordings, and they found, you know, pamphlets and doctrine and all these things. And then they found $700,000 in cash, and where he was just squirreling his money away. Like, I don't know what he was going to do with it. Like, I mean, if there was a plan. I mean, he had all these bank accounts everywhere. What he was planning on doing, I don't know. If he was planning on maybe having them all kill themselves and him, like, roll out, and then that didn't work. I don't know, but either way, he was squirreling it away. And since then, you know, there's been like just a butt ton of lawsuits that have been filed against, you know, various authorities, and I guess I don't know how you file it against, like, Jim Jones, like his estate or whatever. Just because there were so many families that tried to get the authorities to do something, and they were begging them, you know, for help, and they didn't do anything until it was far too late. So, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it would have still turned out the same way because they were gearing up and ready for so long, but still, there were several lawsuits still, you know, ongoing for years and years and years after the massacre. About 85 people, including 3 of Jim's sons, did survive. Several people ran out into the woods, and then they actually had a Jonestown basketball team, People's Temple basketball team, that were in the neighboring town of Georgetown playing, and Jim's sons were on that team, so when the massacre occurred, they were not taken. You know, lots of them have given, you know, various talks and interviews since then, and they're fascinating, and the people themselves are fascinating. You can tell their lives are changed forever for what happened and what they witnessed, and it's just it's something to see, and it's very sad to think that so much of their life was given to what started out so pure, I feel like, you know, equality for all and inclusion for all, and then ended up, you know, taking so many people. It was just a sad situation all the way around. So, but yeah, that's our cult daddy, Jimmy J, right there. Sad to think that it was so well intentioned at first, and then, which it kind of makes me wonder, was it? Because I've even heard rumors, read things that said, you know, that he even told Marceline at one point he was an atheist and all types of stuff. So I don't know if his heart was ever in the right place, we probably won't ever know. And I've read so many conflicting things on him. You know, like certain people who've written biographies think one way and certain people think another. But I mean, you know, just at least the message started off in the right place. And then it went, I mean, it didn't go off the rails. It went on over the rails. Like it just like, and just the greed and the drugs and all the things that they just took over, I guess. And then now we have, you know, 909 people who are just gone like that. And it's just, dang, man. I mean, and there's so many people that haven't heard of, they've heard of Jonestown. They've heard like, don't drink the Kool-Aid. They've heard all that stuff, but they don't know the story. And it was kind of crazy to me that it's died off the way that it has. So that was another reason why I wanted to cover this on this channel, was because I'm like, this is a huge piece of history that I don't recall ever learning about. And I know, you know, I get it. Like, you know, they probably aren't going to put this in like the kids' history books, right? Like, oh, you're in 4th grade. Let's learn about the Jonestown Massacre. But I think it's important to learn these things, because how quickly 909 people got caught up in this. And there were more than that, because, you know, there's some that got out. There were some that didn't move to Jonestown. There were all these things. So there were people's temples. There were still active churches in the United States that were shut down after this. So, you know, it wasn't just limited to, it was not just limited to 909. There were more. And how quickly you can get caught up in something like this before you even realize what's happening. And I think we need to know about it. We need to learn about it, and we need to learn from it. I don't want to liken him to like somebody like Hitler, who definitely was a much more massive scale, but you can easily see how one person can manipulate and pull you in and be charismatic enough to be a leader, and people follow. And we can't let that type of history repeat itself. So I think it's very, very important to learn from it. But yeah, that's Jonestown, y'all. That's Jimmy J. That's our boy. That's the OG cult daddy himself. So I am dying to know what you guys think about this story. You know, I love a good cult story, so this one was right up my alley. I am going to be doing a couple other cults coming up, but I do want to do one story in between about the one that I talked about, I think, on my last video. There was an ID channel special on it, and I wanted to wait till that came out so I could discuss a little bit of what came out on that documentary. I keep wanting to say it like Stephanie Harlow, like documentary, because she just sounds so cute when she says it, and I love Stephanie Harlow, so shout out to Stephanie if you're watching. Dang, I wish she was. That'd be cool. That'd be so fun. Anyway, though, let me know what you think about these. And if you have ideas for cases, I would love to hear it. I think there's an email address in the description box. If there's not, I'll be sure to add it. But it's casesformisty@gmail.com. But you can put it in the comments. You don't have to get all formal. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you want me to talk about. I love doing this. I've loved your feedback. I've loved my DMs have been blowing up with people like, I didn't know you were doing this. It's so fun. I love true crime, da 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 da. And we've been able to talk about it. So I love talking with you guys. So drop me a comment, drop me some love. Be sure you subscribe if you aren't already, because that is a free way to support the channel. Like it, share it, do all those things. Doesn't cost a dime. And you know we love free over here as much as we love a good cult. So until next time, guys, I want you to stay sweet. I want you to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.